This is Stella Bosworth. I'm speaking to you from Orlando, Florida. And a lot of you seeing me this morning and listening to me in the churches don't really know me because new people are added all the time to the church. So this is just a little background. The pastors have asked me to flash something so you could get to know me, and then I finally get to know you too. I was born in South Africa. We've been there for 6 generations, and I have a marvelous heritage because every one of my ancestors are born again, and then four of them, 4 generations, are missionaries. And so that's great for me as a grandmother. And I've come to Orlando to recuperate. A lot of you know through my newsletters that I've had hip replacement surgery, and so my daughters, you know them, Linda and Debbie, brought me to the States and to recuperate. Unfortunately, I was walking well in Linda's house and something happened overnight where I experienced a lot of pain, which has been there since then, about 2 months ago. So we've been to doctors, we've had x-rays, we've had CAT scans, and all they say is rest, which I really don't want to do. Thank you for many of you that wished me for my 80th birthday. I'm 80 and I'm strong and I'm very well, as you have prayed through the years. And so I'm just asking the Lord to heal me, that this hip will come right. I don't want to walk, I want to run. I really do want to run. I've got 12 grandchildren, very active, and I just want to be going again. So thank you for all your prayers, and please continue to pray that this hip will return to its best than it ever was before. I thank you all for your finance, that it's been, some of you, 50 years. Because Bob and I were missionaries, and it's 58 years now that I'm a missionary. You all want to know, well, what are you doing since Bob passed away? What are you doing? Just sitting in the sun? What are you doing? Reading books? No, I am still the director of World Outreach for the whole world, and the mission work is growing. One pastor wrote to me and he said, there must be many changes since Bob passed away. Yes, there have been many changes. The work is much bigger. The Bible school is going wonderfully, and the changes are all for the better. And I know you are thrilled to hear that because you keep supporting. The big thank you today is that the Bible school is still open. I have a couple who are running the Bible school. They are businessmen in Zimbabwe, but they are so anxious about the young people. Like Bob's, that was his greatest vision, to have a Bible school where they could train young men to go out into the rural areas and speak to the people who had not heard about Jesus before. And that is what is happening. We are touching all sides of Zimbabwe. And we just thank the Lord for that. And my big thank you is we had $250 in our account in Zimbabwe for the Bible school, and it meant it would have to close. And you people rallied. There are some of you who sent good gifts, so that to this day the Bible school is still open and running. And please know that I'm very, very grateful for that. That's the future of our work. We don't believe in just adding people to the mission work, to the churches, to the Bible. We believe in multiplying, and we can do that through the lives of these young people who go out, dedicate themselves under very, very difficult circumstances. Most of them go into the bush areas, they walk, some of them have a bicycle, and it's kind of dangerous with the wild animals, but they are so dedicated to the Lord that they carry on. A lot of you don't know how we started the work. My husband is an American from Miami. He came to our church in Africa and was ministering in my church. I was the musician, but that night I was on the bus and it came in late, so I got a seat way in the back of the church. And he had a friend next to him on the platform, and he nudged him, and he said to him, Daniel, do you see that a girl at the back, on the back row? I was all dressed in pink, British style, pink hat, pink dress, pink gloves, you know, those olden days. And Daniel said, yes, I know the family. He says, God has just told me that I will marry her. So that was how I met Bob, and it took me a while for the Lord to show me, yes, this is the man he'd brought all the way from America, from Miami. And so we became missionaries to Zimbabwe. You know, in those days we came over on a freighter, which took 45 days from New York to Byram, Mozambique, which is the country adjoining at least Salisbury we were going to. The name was changed to Harare. It was Rhodesia, and now it is Zimbabwe. These days it takes 26 hours to get from Johannesburg to New York. Isn't that a difference? 45 days was a very long time on the boat. But we came to Zimbabwe to start new, absolutely pioneer work. Bob had his big tent, and that's how we did our evangelism. And we thank the Lord that thousands upon thousands of people got saved in the tent meetings. We had meetings for young people only, children only. And the older ones wanted to know, why can't we come into the tent? Because we showed them, no, you are not allowed in. And so many thousands came that we had to lift the sides of the tent so that the grown-ups, the parents, could come and see what's going on. And parents and children got saved. We'd have sometimes 5,000 at a time, which was absolutely wonderful. And, it's very, very important. Many missionaries, many visitors come to Africa and they take pictures of a group that got saved and a group that got saved. That's all very well. And you're counting hands. Well, we didn't do that. We'd only count them after they had been discipled. 30 points of New Testament doctrine at least for a week or two, consecutive days, so that they were learning the scriptures right from the beginning. They knew nothing, and they were so hungry to learn from the Lord. And our work in Zimbabwe started small. I think we managed, after we got married in Africa, we came to the States to raise support. And we managed to go back to Africa with $38 a month support. That's what we started with. Thank God someone gave us a car that we put on the freighter and brought to Africa. And the Lord just blessed the work from there. Linda and Debbie were born in Zimbabwe. We found a little old cottage and had a bed, but we had building blocks that were our tables and chairs. And after 5 years, we expected Linda, and it was such a great excitement. 16 months later, Debbie came on the scene. So that was the beginning. But there was a man that I hired. Bob's mother died in the States, and there was no finance for us all to go overseas. So I stayed to carry on the mission work. And there was a man that I met. He was called Angoni tribe, which is an offshoot of the Zulu. Now, I've been working a lot among the Zulus. If you speak Zulu, you can speak Pondo, you can speak Batka. This is the click language. Batka, there are many clicks. You can speak to Kaba, you can speak to Hoza, and those languages are related. And also in Zimbabwe, but this group of Zulus had to flee from Chaka, the king of the Zulus. He was slaughtering the people, and an Angoni tribe formed north of Zimbabwe, almost into Zambia. And this man was from that tribe. His name was Thomas. And he came to the town. He came from a little village, came to the town, and saw boxers. And he thought, well, that's what I want to be. I want to be a boxer. But he was a traditional ancestral worshipper, and he'd go to the witch doctor and he gave him muti, or medicine, that he would put under his tongue. And when that happened, immediately a tremendous anger rose in him, and he became a champion boxer. And they tell us that it was knockout in the first round, because he just was so enraged. He was so angry that his opponent didn't even stand a chance. And then he wanted to go home to his village, and when he got there, his father saw that he was almost like a wild man. He says, it's too dangerous for us to have you in this village. I think you must leave. We're afraid for our children. And he was so angry that there was a bullock, and he smashed his fist into the bullock, and he died on the spot. And when the father saw that, he says, we can't do this. You must go. So they locked him up in a hut, an African hut. And the anger was so strong. Of course, it was demon possession too, that we see all the time in Africa. And he put his back against the wall of this room, and he ran, and he came out the other side with his head. And then they chased him away. They said, you can't do this anymore. But he remembered very carefully that his grandmother, who was an ancestral witch, she would beat the drums. And I hear the drums today. Some of people in America don't know that those drums come from the ancestral worship. You can hear the certain beats. It's satanic, absolutely satanic, and people must be very careful when they start playing the drums. And then they call the spirits. the drums will come when they hear that special beat. And so that's how he lived. And then he was chased out of his home, and he came to what was then Salisbury. And there was a missionary lady, a white American missionary lady, who led him to the Lord. And she left, and I found him. And while Bob was overseas, seeing to his mother's, she had died, I asked Tommy please to come and work for us. And we started making building blocks. I had a Jeep and a trailer, and we started getting all the ingredients that we have for building blocks. And he worked next to Bob. Bob taught him how to build, and this went on for years. All the churches, the Bible school, and everything. It was Tommy and Bob, and then they had other workers too to help them, because the work was tremendous. And that man became the head of our mission when we had to travel. Bob and I traveled to 65 countries of the world and lived in various places for long periods of time. But Zimbabwe was our base, and still is. This is my primary mission work, is Zimbabwe, although I have many mission works in other countries too. I won't even touch on those today because we're kind of speaking about Zimbabwe, and I think that's important. But this man was very, very good as a preacher, and as he could interpret. As fast as you say the sentence, he's already got it said in Shona or whatever language it was. And the work grew. Unfortunately, he was killed in a terrible accident where he died instantly. But from him and Bob's work through the years, you'll be very happy to know that the men we have working with us in Zimbabwe now are highly trained men. Some of them were primitive. They came to the Bible school. They got taught the Word of God and couldn't wait to get out to go and help. First of all, we put them with the pastors so they can learn. They can learn not just the Bible, which they've already learned, but how to be an evangelist or whatever the Lord has called them to be. So we are thrilled with what's going on now. I have one man, Cathius Mapinyao, who is he's a high school teacher. He teaches the higher grade science and all the difficult things, but he is now the head of the mission. And wherever I am in the world, whether I'm traveling or like I'm sitting in Orlando right now, he has all the work in control, and we have many more African workers, men, women, the children, the youth are witnessing. So the work is growing tremendously, and I know that's what you want to hear. I spoke to a pastor yesterday, and I told him the Bible school is now going, and it's for evangelism. He says, that's my heart. That's why I and my wife give to you. And thank you to all those of you who write letters, who send words of, I want to say not of condolence since Bob died, because I haven't grieved for 1 second since Bob passed away. I haven't shed one tear. The joy of the Lord is my strength, and I'm excited that he's with the Lord in glory, and for the work to be going and prospering even more than when he was here. So life is good. Life is good for me. I'm very excited. I'm visiting with Linda in Orlando, and I'll be traveling to other areas. I'll see Debbie and David. And I just want to thank you very, very much for being my sponsors, most of all because you pray for me. I know with the economy in the States, things are very difficult at this stage for some churches. Some have had to drop support. Some have had to lessen the amount they send every month. But that doesn't matter at all, because the work is the Lord's, the finance is the Lord's, everything is the Lord's. And even if you've had to drop me, you said you'd still pray for me. And I thank you that the work is going beautifully. My mum ministered to the Zulu people. When I was 5 years old, I got saved in an African meeting. And my dad was preaching. He was a district attorney, but they did mission work as well. And I got saved at 5, my sister was 7, and from that time on, we were doing mission work with my parents. And Mama always wanted to learn the Zulu language, and she found a place that would sell her a Zulu Bible, which came. We lived in a very little village at that time. My dad was in charge of about 30,000 tribes people at that time. A different life, a wonderful life. I had a wonderful childhood. And when the Bible came, she knew there were a few Christians in the area, And she could speak, you call it Pig Latin, Charaparapa, whatever you call it. She could understand a little bit of Zulu. And she invited them to come to the house to see the Bible. And they were so excited. And they told her to gutka, that's it, gutka, which means kneel down. She knelt down and they took the Bible and put it on her head. And they prayed a very simple prayer. And she understood. They said, please, Lord, give this woman our language so they can teach us what is in this book. And when Mama got off her knees, she could read, write, and speak Zulu fluently. When I say fluently, you know, when God gives you a gift, He's not giving you something where you have a terrible English accent or Afrikaans accent. He gave her perfect Zulu, so she spoke a deeper Zulu than any of them there. If she was in another room, they said, we don't know that this is a white woman speaking. And she passed away when she was 89, still a missionary, still speaking Zulu fluently. And the Lord has been so good to me, because when I left Africa now, I've been among the Zulu people. And, you know, it's lovely to be a Christian. It's lovely to speak about the Lord, but the Lord has blessed me in this sense that the Zulu has come back to me. And when I go out in the day, I ask the Lord to give me 1 or 2 souls a day. Every time I go out my gate, I'm looking, I'm saying, who, Lord? And He'll point, He'll say that one amongst a crowd. And I'll go to them. They might be some high official or a little old lady, and they give their hearts to the Lord. And then He says that one and that one. So my daughters are laughing because they say, every time you go out with Mom, you have to take a lot longer to do your shopping, because the Lord is pointing out people to them. He's prepared their hearts. And I speak to them in Zulu. Of course, I speak to the white ones too, and I speak Afrikaans, which is Dutch, a language of South Africa. So there are many different languages, but I have concentrated on the Zulu people who are so open. And I know you like to hear this. It's ongoing, because I've got people there who are witnessing to the Zulus going into the townships and meeting the needs. We have the highest AIDS in Zimbabwe and South Africa per capita in the whole world. And they're desperately in need of our prayers and our help. Many orphans, because the parents die of AIDS. So there's a great work still to be done in Africa. Thank you, my sponsors. I love you from the depths of my heart. I always have, I do now, and I always will until the Lord comes. Thank you. God bless you. I love you. God bless.